Hey, it's Irreverent Ages here, and welcome to another installment of the two-man Vet Dungeon tanking series, where my heterosexual life partner Kyle and I two-man every single vet dungeon so that I can show you all the tanking mechanics you're expected to know and all the extra things you might be responsible for if you stupidly queue up for a random vet dungeon solo style. With only 2 people in our group, we are simulating a bad pug experience so that you can better learn all the mechanics that good groups just burn right past. This is Veteran Shipwright's Regret, and this is the first optional boss, the Lost Maiden. The main attack we need to look out for in this fight is gaslighting, because the true joy of this fight is the dialogue. Seriously, go into your menu and read it all when the fight is over. Better yet, I'll just put it on my screen after the fight. Anyway, the Lost Maiden will make you feel like you just got out of the most dysfunctional relationship ever. It ended with you murdering her though, so now you have to live with that. But seriously, as far as the attack go, she does some ice spikes. She impales you with the ice spikes, right to the groin probably. Sounds like something a vengeful spirit would do. Good thing you wore protection, because I don't know if you can, but I can't imagine having kids with her. Oh, I meant protection from the groin spikes. Anyway, just block these. Ice Conal. Face it away from the group as usual. You can sidestep it, roll dodge it, block it, or even do that thing where you accidentally jump backwards instead of rolling. You won't die regardless, but it will knock you back a little bit. There's also another attack that I call Hail. It's just small AoEs that I imagine feel like snowflakes. They get summoned down from the sky. I didn't really even notice these until I recorded this video. The only real attack that she does is the heavy attack. She throws a snowball at you, and it hurts a lot, so you're going to want to block this one. Now, right around 60%, as you just saw, the boss will split into 3 mini versions of herself, as if one angry ex-lover wasn't enough. They all do the same attacks as the main one. The DDs can just take these down however they want. When they're all taken care of, you'll hook up with the main lady for one last honeymoon period, because dysfunctional love is the hottest love. But again, this ends poorly, with murder, and it's totally not worth it, even if it feels right at the time. The minis will continue to attack you even after they are all killed, so just be aware of those things. As the tank, you're pretty much just going to want to taunt all the minis, so they don't heavy attack your DDs or your healer, because one of them will probably die if that happens, and it totally won't ruin a trifecta or anything, promise. The first real boss is Foreman Brat. He's not too bad on non-hard mode. On hard mode, he's really difficult. He's actually the hardest boss in the dungeon, in my opinion. But anyway, for non-hard mode, for the attacks you want to look out for, his heavy attack, like most boss heavy attacks, you should just block this. When you have a Haunter on you, it hurts a lot more, so feel free to roll dodge it, but you can block it too. It just hurts a lot. You just saw him charge and summon 2 Haunters. The best thing to do is tank the boss near the exit door. When he charges, it'll just charge into the wall, and your group's dots will all stay on the boss. 1 Haunter will appear for each person alive in your group. During execute, this charge will happen at an annoyingly high rate, and you can no longer control its direction, so be prepared to chase him around as if he were your child running through traffic. Except, you want him dead, so. Another thing, as you're seeing now, is the growing AoE. The boss sends out circles in multiple directions when it reaches maximum size. If it hits someone, it'll stun that person, and then that circle will be split into multiple additional circles and be sent out in all directions. Not that big of a deal on non-hard mode. You can spread that like 4 times and you still won't die. But it's good practice for hard mode to avoid it. Easiest way to avoid it is to roll dodge forward through the attack. Also, if you're tanking directly on the boss, this doesn't need to be roll dodge at all. You can just take the hit without any repercussions other than breaking free after it hits. At 60%, Brad's going to disappear. He'll also disappear at 30%. And when he does, he'll call the Flesh Colossus to fight in his place while he uses Tinder from the bathroom. That's what's taking him so long. Anyway, when the Flesh Colossus comes up, it's going to do a ground slam that creates a growing poison pool, and the poison pool is definitely something that everyone wants to swim in because everybody loves pools. Everyone also gets an AoE circle on him during this phase, just don't stack the circles. As mentioned previously, haunters will spawn every time the boss charges. There will be one haunter per person in your group, and they tether to people and make them take way more damage from all sources. So you should pretty much kill them right away, unless you're doing one of the hard mode trifecta strats. Everyone should also group up, that way the AoEs will take care of all of the haunters, because the haunters won't come into group unless all the people are stacked. The next ad that we deal with are the Flame Shapers. They light attack, and they also do a Channel the Flame ability that sends fire at everyone. This can be interrupted, but it's better if the tank chains them in, because interrupting them ruins the ability of the tank to actually chain them. The second Flesh Colossus comes out at 30%, and like the first Colossus, we're just going to burn him down as quickly as possible. The tank can just taunt him and face him away from the group, but he'll get out pretty quick. In the last phase, we do have one more mechanic for Foreman Brat again, and that is he will teleport to the person that's furthest away from him. So it's actually best if the entire group just stacks right on him, because then when he teleports, as he just did right there, he'll just stay inside all of the ground AoEs. During this execute, since you can't control the direction he charges anymore, you can just focus on chaining things in. I do recommend an auto chain if you have one, just to make it easier, so a necro tank or the monster helm that auto chains. Your DPS are pretty much going to ignore everything during this phase, including the haunters, and just burn the boss down. So 30-0 is really just a DPS check. The second optional boss is the Shrouded Axeman. The Shrouded Axeman has his normal heavy attack, and you should just block that per usual. He's also going to summon 2 Wrath Hounds, so when he puts his arms out to the side like he's pretending to be an airplane, he's magically going to summon 2 exploding dogs. And of course, like in a lot of other dungeons, dogs like to explode in this game for some reason. They'll put out a big AoE, so everyone should just block when this happens. He'll also split, as you're seeing here, and he'll put out ground AoEs. So when he splits into multiple shades, everyone should go around bashing all of them. That'll end the phase, and every time those shades slam the ground, it puts out ground AoEs. So get the interrupts quickly, because when the boss comes back out after getting all the interrupts, these will grow bigger than they originally appear, and they'll explode all over the map, and they do big damage. So people should just, not stand in things that clearly look like they shouldn't be stood in. The boss will also summon Shrouded Axeman's Hounds, and these things are not the same as the exploding dogs. In fact, these ones don't explode at all. But they're going to end up dying because you'll be left to watch sadly as your group slays them anyway. So I guess they could have just exploded and been in charge of their own destinies. Oh well. I didn't mention it earlier, but for doing the first optional boss, you'll get the Maiden's Protection buff. That way her love can stay with you for all eternity, of course. That gives a 10% boost to max magicka, and it gives you an emergency shield when your health drops below 10%. For beating this boss, you're going to get the Shroud of the Axeman, and that allows you to also pretend to be an airplane. But anyway, it gives you 10% extra health, and when you take a hit for over half your health in one hit, you get 100% extra healing done for 5 seconds. So that's cool, but more importantly, you better start practicing your engine and propeller sounds. The rest of this fight is pretty much exactly the same, so let's fast forward through it. The second main boss is Nazareth. Nazareth is pretty straightforward to deal with on non-hard mode. There's not a whole lot going on. You can actually skip a lot of the mechanics that look like you should be doing something, but you actually don't need to. So first thing to look out for is that big heavy attack that we just saw. It has a very long wind-up. Get used to timing it, because in hard mode, if the boss is empowered, this heavy will hurt a lot. Nazareth also does this really dramatic arm wave, and she'll wave her arm and stick in big circles, and this is going to summon both large and small AoE plant meteors, and they'll go on for a little while even after she finishes. The attack will culminate with 2 fairly large plant meteors. You can just block them. Your DDs are the ones who really need to watch out for that attack more than anyone. What we're seeing right now is another exploding dog phase. Why do they all have to die? But on non-hard mode, these literally barely do anything at all. Big AoEs are going to take up your entire screen, and it looks super scary, but you can pretty much just completely ignore them, and the big useless conals will not do anything. They'll barely hurt anyone. Now, in hard mode, there's a different story. You'll wipe your group if you don't take care of the dogs. Here, just ignore them. Now, this fight gets a lot more interesting around 60% boss health, and I call it the blue/purple phase because I'm colorblind and don't know what color it is. When Nazareth turns bluish-purple, she'll start putting empowering AoE circles on the ground that you're seeing on the screen right now. These greatly amplify her damage, and when she's standing inside them, make her invulnerable. What you need to do as the tank is walk her out of the circles. However, you should stay fairly close to her, as being too far away triggers a rapid light attack that will hit a blocking tank for like 35 to like 50,000 damage, depending on active defensive buffs. So in other words, if you're too far away, more than likely going to one-shot you or hit you for big damage. So what you do is you stay close enough to make her walk out of the circle, but you should be patient with it. If she's in the circle, heavy attacks should also be rolled, as they hit incredibly hard when she is empowered. Outside of the dogs, the only ads that come up are those wasps, and you can taunt those if you want as the tank. That way they ignore your DDs and healer, so they don't really do a whole lot. So just taunt them. Now you're seeing these 2 circling AoEs going around the screen right now, those bluish-purple winds. They will eventually just explode and disappear. They tend to come out randomly. It looks like maybe around 20% or a little after that. But that's the only time I notice them in the fight, so they might come out more. I'm not really sure, but they don't really do a whole lot. Just avoid them. That's pretty much it for this fight. Pretty simple on non-hard mode. The third optional boss is the Storm-Cursed Sailor. Now, he has a twist to his heavy attack. It's also a stun and a knockback. I guess you can roll dodge it, but you're not really in danger of dying. You can just block it and then get knocked back and stunned. You can just break free. He does another move where he does like this Jedi lightning thing on somebody, and then he turns him into a Tesla coil. So he'll target somebody, put that lightning dot on him. You really can't miss it because, you know, lightning starts shooting out of the person. Like I said, Tesla coil. Another thing he does is he does this big AoE explosion that you're seeing right there. Although he's not a dog, he will explode. The move is telegraphed by that fast-growing AoE. You can just block that. My DD got hit by it completely. Didn't die, so not that big of a deal. And then at some point during the fight, he's going to just start teleporting all across the map. Here it is. Pretty much what he does is he strikes everyone with down B, you know, that special move that he took from Pikachu from Super Smash Bros. Everyone should just block through this phase when he's teleporting around. If you have a healer in the group, the normal hot should be more than enough to prevent death, even if somebody takes multiple hits of this. That's pretty much the entire fight. The only thing you need to do is the tank. You know, read the blocking tutorial. It's a very useful skill to know how to block. And for wasting your time on this boss, you'll be rewarded with the Curse of the Storm, which gives 10% extra stamina and makes your heavy attacks do some extra lightning damage. Yay. The last boss in this dungeon is Captain Numeral. And let me tell you, this was one of the absolute worst bosses to 2-man. As far as his attacks go, we need to interrupt this ability or else we get knocked up in the air. He does an AoE circle that if you don't roll out of, it will knock you back and you'll need to break free. And then, throughout the fight, he is going to charge somewhere across the map like he's doing right here, and this will start the kite mechanic, which as the tank you should call out. He'll start swinging his arms upwards like he's dancing like a white girl, and he'll put out these AoEs. These hurt pretty good, so make sure that you keep moving and stay out of them. Your DPS will pretty much get one shot if they get hit by them. You'll be okay on non-hard mode, but they still hurt a lot. If you're really far away from the boss, then he will do a gap closer on you that will knock you back and stun you. So either get up close to him, or when you see the gap closer, just roll away. At 84%, he will disappear, just like Brad, probably also, quote-unquote, using the bathroom. But, you know, he'll come back eventually. When he leaves, we're going to get drowned corpses that are going to start spawning, as well as we're going to get tides that come up. Then, after a short amount of time, a drowned Hulk will appear in the corner. There's a lot to unpack here regarding the tides, the drowned Hulk, and the drowned corpses, so luckily, we have plenty of time. What we're going to do, we're going to stack in the corner to deal with this Hulk. Now, there are plenty of strategies that suggest that this is not the best idea, and of course, those people who use those strategies are wrong, because clearly I'm right. So we're going to stack in the corner, and we're just going to burn this Hulk down. And the reason why we like to stack in the corner is because, one, we don't need to worry about the drowned corpses for the most part, and two, if the DDs move too far away from the drowned Hulk, then he's going to gap close and charge at them. So it's easier to just stand here and burn him down, and the DDs can just step outside of the green blobs on the ground, and they'll be fine. If you have a healer in the group, they can just stand inside of the green blobs, and they'll still be fine. As soon as the Hulk goes down, Captain Numeral will come back out. Now, let's use this time to talk about two different strategies for dealing with the drowned corpses, and let's talk a little bit about what the drowned corpses do. First, they are going to spit green blobs all over the ground. This mechanic can be interrupted, and some groups like to assign interrupters to actually try to interrupt them to minimize the number of green blobs. The second thing they're going to do is they're going to spit green balls at people, and these actually hurt your DDs quite a bit. So when they do this, if a DD is being targeted by more than one, the damage can stack up pretty quickly. So if you have a healer in the group, it's not that big of a deal. You can just completely ignore these things for the entire fight. In fact, for hard mode and for the trifecta run with our group, we pretty much ignored them the entire time and didn't deal with them at all. We just let them do all the mechanics, and we didn't worry about it. Now, if you have the killer combination of bad DPS and bad healing together, you may have to go around and deal with the drowned corpses. This is kind of the case here because we're two-manning this. We don't have a healer at all, and we only have one DD, so we actually needed to deal with these drowned corpses a little bit. We didn't really change strategies until we realized how awful this fight was after a few attempts, so we kind of half-assed dealing with the corpses when we needed to. We could have done better. But pretty much what you're going to want to do with the corpses, if you're in this scenario, is you would take the boss as the tank, take him around the different fences, and let the drowned corpses die in the cleave as you take the boss around. We wouldn't do this if we had a full group of 4, but again, we're simulating all the mechanics to worry about, so I might as well talk about it. What's extra annoying is that the corpses spawn continuously throughout the fight. So the other thing you can do as the tank to help prevent damage to all of your team is you can actually taunt the corpses, and they will target you, which isn't that big of a deal. Now, the other mechanic that I haven't mentioned yet are these tides that go around. If a tide hits you when you're not blocking, it's going to put a dot on you as well as knock you back. If you are blocking, it's still going to put the dot on you, and you can get multiple stacks of this dot. In fact, there's an achievement for getting a certain number of these stacks. So if you're an achievement whore who just randomly does achievements just because some video game company said, hey, do this thing, then by all means, go ahead and get that achievement. Nothing new is going to happen during this phase, so let's fast forward a bit. Every once in a while, the boss will start doing another dance where he slams his arms downwards instead of upwards, and this will actually explode all of the green blobs on the map. It gets rid of all of them, and the nice thing about it is that it doesn't really hurt that bad if you are on an exploding one. Your DDs can even just stand there and block it, they won't even die from it. So it ends up being a good thing when he cleanses those. At 40%, the boss is going to teleport away one last time, and instead of there being a delay, we're going to get a drowned Hulk immediately, And, like I mentioned before, the better strategy is to just stack in the corner and kill it immediately. However, there's a twist this time, and that is Captain Numeral will come back down, so now we have to deal with Captain Numeral and a Drowned Hulk. The most important thing is to roll dodge that attack you just saw there, because that Hulk smash ability is a stun, and you don't want to get stunned and hit by the boss at the same time. During this execute phase, the boss will also do his kite mechanic, but he's not going to teleport across the map before he starts doing it. So as the tank, you need to be able to call this out. Again, when he starts waving his arms upwards, you know, that white girl dance we talked about earlier, that's when you have to call out Kite for your group, because they're going to be focused on killing this Drowned Hulk. Ideally, with a group of 4, the Drowned Hulk will not last very long, and he'll go down before the boss comes back, or you'll have to deal with them for only a very short amount of time when the boss comes back. And if you are in that unfortunate situation where you have bad healing and bad DPS in your group, then you might have to kite the Hulk and the boss around the room to deal with the corpses, like I mentioned before, but hopefully that's not the case. Once the Hulk goes down, the fight becomes a lot more manageable, as the only major concern is the kite mechanic, again, because it is not as telegraphed as it was before the execute. Once again, depending on your group comp and the overall ability of your group, you may decide to go for a straight stack and whack to finish off the boss, or you might kite the boss into the corpses and get the interrupts and all that fun stuff. So you'll see me very poorly taunt some of them, interrupt some of them, and bring the boss to some of them for the rest of this fight. So rather than make you sit through that, we'll just go ahead and say that, yes, I did that strategy kind of, because there were only 2 of us, and we'll fast forward through the rest. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and leave a comment. And as usual, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would appreciate a sub. If you wanted to know more about this dungeon, in particular the hard mode and trifecta strats, feel free to check out the other videos on my channel.